Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Kate Mickle, and I am the Senior Director of Graduate Business Admissions at the University of San Diego. As we have people logging in, I am just going to take a moment to go over the agenda for today's session with all of you. We're going to spend the first half of the conversation reviewing the application requirements and tips that are common to all of our programs. And then during the second half of the presentation, we'll have some program-specific Q&A time with our assistant directors. And we're going to be posting a little bit later links to individual Zoom sessions where you can join the assistant directors to talk to them about your specific program of interest. I'll be staying in the main Zoom session to address any general questions. And again, those links for those individual Zoom sessions will be posted a little bit later. I have most of my team with me this morning, so I just wanted them all to unmute and just say a quick hello so you can all see who they are.
Hi, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Great. Well, thank you again, everybody, for being with us. We scheduled this meeting for 8 in the morning California time in the hopes that people across the country as well as around the globe would have an opportunity to join us. So what I would love to do is in the chat box, if you wouldn't mind, just telling us where in the world you're logging in from. It would be really great to get a better sense of our audience today. New Orleans, great. India, San Diego. I figured there'd be a lot of people from San Diego, Charlotte, North Carolina, Paris, Washington, D.C. Wonderful. Lake Tahoe. Fantastic. Great. Well, thank you for being here, Nepal. That's wonderful. It's one of the things that I really love about University of San Diego is that all of our programs have such diverse cohorts, and it really lends itself to such a dynamic classroom environment and learning environment when you have people joining the program from all over the world, from different cultural backgrounds and different professional backgrounds. So again, that's one of the things that I really love about working for graduate business programs at USD. So why don't we start off with a quick poll that I'm going to launch. I would like to know which specific graduate program you're interested in. So I'm going to launch that poll. Quickly, can everybody see that? All right. Okay, so it looks like we have a nice diverse group and diverse interest. Okay, wonderful. Well, we'll have time to address questions for all of these programs. And so why don't we jump in and get started? We have actually just a few more people left to vote to enter your poll response. Okay. Great, thank you so much for participating in that. All righty. Okay, so we try to keep the application process for our programs as streamlined as possible. And I know that some of you on this call have already started applications, so I'm hoping that you are finding the process to be very straightforward and easy. The whole thing is available online, and I've included a link on this slide for easy access to a link to the online application, as well as the application requirements for our individual programs. You'll see that I have included the $125 application fee on this slide. And I'm happy to let you know that as a thank you for joining us for today's session, we are happy to waive that application fee for you. After today's session, just send an email to our office and a member of our team will send you an application fee waiver code. So again, that $125 fee will be waived for you, just again, as a appreciation for you joining us all today. So you'll notice that there are a number of components that I have listed here. Now, these are the components that are common across all of our programs. So let's talk about the first one that I have listed here, which is a resume. So what we're looking for is a professional resume, and you can think about it the same way that you would when you're applying to a job. So the resume can be formatted in the very same way that you would submit a job application. We request that it be no longer than 2 pages, and that it be a combination of both your skills and your accomplishments. I should mention that I know many of you during the registration process had submitted questions, things that you were hoping to have addressed during this session. So I'm going to try to address as many of those questions as possible. And I know a couple of you were wondering about resume. So hopefully those brief tips, treat it like you would a job application, keep it no more than 2 pages long, and also try to avoid too much industry jargon in the resume. So our team is accustomed to working with individuals from many, many different industry backgrounds. But at the same time, it does help us be a little bit more efficient in our application review if we don't need to spend a lot of time translating very technical or industry specific language. So again, keep the resume brief, professional, and avoid too much industry jargon in your resume. All right. Next component that is common to all of our program applications is 2 letters of recommendation. And we're frequently asked who you should choose to be your recommender. If you have more than 1 to 2 years of work experience, what we'd like to see is recommendations from individuals who know you in a professional capacity. So what that means is a supervisor, a manager, perhaps a coworker. So again, somebody who can speak to who you are in a professional setting. If you are still a senior and undergraduate, or maybe you're in your first few months of a new job and you feel like you don't have somebody like that who can write a letter of recommendation for you, it is perfectly fine to ask a professor, sometimes 2 professors. But what I would say is try to choose a faculty member who knows you beyond just saying, this person got an A in my class. So we really want somebody who can speak to your leadership potential, to your accomplishments. How do you work in groups? What are your interpersonal skills? We're trying to get a complete picture of who you are by putting all these different puzzle pieces together. And the letters of recommendation certainly are an important piece of that puzzle. I would give your recommenders a heads up that you're going to be choosing them as a recommender, and I would give them plenty of time to fill out the recommendation. The process is very streamlined. In the online application, there is a place where you can enter the name of your recommender, their title, and their relationship to you. And then the online application system will automatically send them a form to fill out. They are welcome to upload their own letter that they have written from scratch. They can also fill out the form and upload the letter, or they have the choice to do either. So we try to make it very, very easy for them and for you so that you don't have to go chasing down the letters, but rather the online system will send the form to the recommender directly. In addition to giving recommenders time to fill out letters for you, I would also strongly suggest that you provide to them a recent copy of your resume and take the time to chat with them, to highlight some of your professional accomplishments and talk to them about why a graduate business program is the next step that you want to take in your life and in your career. So as somebody who's been asked to write letters of recommendation myself, I always find this to be extremely helpful. I may work very closely with someone, but I may forget some details or some accomplishment that they've achieved. And so it's always helpful to have those reminders handy. And this will truly help your recommender write a stronger recommendation for you. if at all possible, before we entered this bizarre COVID world, I would also typically recommend to people, send a thank you, take the recommender out for a cup of coffee, just show your appreciation. I know that's a little bit more challenging now, but there are lots of creative ways to do that digitally. So again, choose your recommenders carefully, give them time to fill out the forms, share a copy of your resume, and then show appreciation for the time that they're spending doing that. The next component that everyone is going to see in their online application is essay questions. Now, essays will vary from program to program. The biggest piece of advice that I can give you when it comes to answering an essay is answer the question that is being asked. Now, that sounds very silly, but what we have found, a lot of my colleagues have found this across universities, is that applicants will sometimes try to recycle the same essay response across multiple applications. Admissions committees are pretty savvy. We've been doing this for a long time. And so we can usually tell when an application has been written, when an essay response has been written for another school. Sometimes it is as obvious as an applicant forgetting to change the name of the school in their application, in their essay. It sounds ridiculous, but it happens every single admission cycle that we will see, again, another school that the applicant is applying to. And we know, okay, well, they probably weren't paying close attention to our essay question. A couple of additional tips, and throughout the presentation, I'm going to be trying to give you tips because I want to help you prepare the strongest application possible. So after you have written your essay response, have somebody take a look at it, proofread it, and actually don't even tell them what the essay question was. Have them read your response and then see if they can guess what the question was. Because if they can guess pretty close to the wording of the essay question, then you can be sure and confident that you truly answered the question that was being asked. And also try not to think too much about what is the admissions committee looking for? What do we want to hear? What we want to know is something authentic about you. We want to know your story. We're not looking for a canned, generic response. Again, we're looking at all of these different pieces of your application to have a more complete picture of who you are as an individual, as a professional, and as a candidate for one of our graduate business programs. So there were a couple of questions that came in through the registration process about how to write a strong essay. Say if you were freshly graduated from undergraduate, or opposite end of the spectrum, you've been working for 20, 25 years. We love, again, as I started off the presentation saying, we love diversity in our classrooms. We want to know about you. We want to know your story. So just be authentic and you can't go wrong. Let's see if there's anything else that I wanted to mention about essays. Okay. I should also mention that every program will have an optional essay that you can submit. So the wording of this essay question is basically, is there anything else that you would like the admissions committee to know about you? So as you work through your application, if there's something that you feel like you'd really like to highlight and you didn't have an opportunity to do that in another part of the application, take advantage of that optional essay. We basically want to know, is there anything else? So a couple of examples that I can provide are, say there is a gap in your resume. There's a gap in your work history of 6 months or a year. Take that optional essay as the opportunity to explain what happened. Was there a medical situation? Were you doing volunteer work? What have you? Was your GPA when you were an undergraduate significantly lower than a 3.0? Address that in the optional essay. What was going on? Were you perhaps working full-time and having a really hard time juggling classes and working? Don't leave the admissions committee guessing. Take that optional essay and try to fill in the blanks. Anything that you think that we need to know about you that is not captured someplace else in the application. It doesn't need to be long. You don't have to include a lot of details. Sometimes we have people submit just one paragraph, sometimes a couple. Length is not important for that essay. Again, it's just for providing a little bit of additional information about your background. Okay. So moving on, the next piece that the university requires from all applicants to all programs is an official copy of your transcript reflecting a bachelor's degree or higher. Many schools provide transcripts electronically, so it's a very quick and easy process. Other schools still provide paper copies that they will mail to University of San Diego. So make sure to give your school plenty of time to send a copy of your transcript. If you are still in undergraduate, if you are still in your final year of your studies, we still need to have a copy of your official transcript giving us the coursework that you've completed to date along with your current GPA. And ideally, those transcripts will also list the courses that you have in progress for your final semester. For people who received an education outside of the United States, there is one additional component. And for you, we request that you have your transcripts evaluated on a course-by-course basis by a company like World Education Service. The acronym is WES, W-E-S, and or another approved agency like WES. And again, we would like them to do a course-by-course evaluation. The purpose of the transcript evaluation for our international students is twofold. One, it allows us to see that you do indeed have the equivalent of a US bachelor's degree. And this is particularly important for those of you who have 3-year undergraduate degrees. We want to, again, ensure that it is equivalent to a US bachelor's. And the other piece is that the transcript evaluation will translate your GPA into the US 4.0 system. So those couple of components will allow us to move forward. And again, official transcripts or an official transcript evaluation is required from the university, not just our office, but in order to be considered for admissions. Another piece that is required from our international applicants, if you were educated in a language other than English, we do ask that you take the TOEFL or the IELTS. We have our minimum scores posted on our website. I believe it's a 7.0 for IELTS, 92 for TOEFL, although we do highly prefer 100 or above, particularly in the speaking section. And this exam expires after 2 years, so it needs to be an exam that you've taken within the past couple of years. Lastly, the piece of the application process that is common for all programs is an interview. After the admissions committee reviews applications, if we see strengths in your application and we think you potentially could be a good fit for the program to which you've applied, we will invite you for an admissions interview, typically with one of the members of the team that you see this morning. Our team is very down to earth, very friendly, so you don't need to be nervous for an interview. In fact, it's a really good sign if you've been invited for an interview. But I'll give you a couple of tips. We certainly want you to treat it professionally. Treat it the way you would a job interview. You want to dress professionally, be prepared, and be ready to ask us questions. So this interview is really the opportunity for us to get to know you better, and then for you to get to know University of San Diego better and use it as a step in your research for determining whether or not we are the right fit for you, just as we'll be doing when we are interviewing you. Again, no need to be nervous for interviews. Great sign if you're invited. Have a good time during the interview. It's, again, a very, very friendly team. I will say that interviews are weighed very heavily in our admissions decision process. So that's why I wanted to provide you all with those few additional tips for how to approach it. Okay, What I'm going to do now is just very briefly go over some of the requirements that are different for each of our programs. And then again, in a few minutes, Haley, who's one of our admissions coordinators, is going to be posting Zoom links that you can join for after my presentation is finished, and you can speak to the assistant directors about your particular program of interest. So let's start with our MBA program. I know quite a few of you are interested in our full-time or professional MBA. So an official GMAT or GRE score is required. However, we do have some waivers that can be granted if certain criteria are met, and those are outlined on our website, and you can also speak to the assistant directors about those during the breakout sessions a bit later. Right now, we are also accepting a course called MBA Math, and we are accepting that in lieu of the GMAT or GRE through January 15th, which is our winter application deadline. MBA Math is an online course. The website address is very simple, mbamath.com. And if you are able to complete that course prior to our January 15th deadline and provide us with the transcripts, we'll be taking a look at all of the different modules and making sure that you've achieved at least an 80% in the quizzes that are provided at the end of each module. Also for the MBA program, we're looking for a minimum of 2 years of work experience. A few of our programs require work experience after undergraduate studies. And the reason for that is there's an expectation in these programs that students will be learning from one another. And also recruiters, particularly from a program like an MBA program, they're going to be looking at your pre-MBA work experience as much as they are the fact that you are earning an MBA. So again, we do look for a minimum of 2 years of work experience and find that students really benefit from having that. They have more of a frame of reference for that MBA curriculum when they have worked for at least a couple of years. Our Masters of Science in Business Analytics. Again, we require the GMAT or the GRE, but there are certain waivers that are available if you meet specific criteria. Another application component for that program is showing us that you've taken at least one college level statistics class with a grade of B- or better. For our Masters of Science in Finance program, again, GMAT or GRE, there are some waiver criteria available. And the additional application piece is one college level calculus class with a grade of C or better. Our MS in Finance and our MS in Business Analytics programs are both STEM certified, which means that they are highly quantitative in nature. And so we need to have additional documentation and these specific class prerequisites in order to make sure that you are going to be successful in these quantitative types of programs. These STEM certified programs also give our international students the opportunity to extend their OPT, and they can stay on an extended visa for 3 years. So it gives you 2 additional years on top of the 1 year that you would get for a non-STEM certified program to stay here in the United States and work again. So it would be 3 years instead of 1, and that is typical for programs that are STEM certified. All right, our Masters of Science in Supply Chain Management, we ask that you submit a professional work product. So for those of you who have been working for a number of years, this is typically something that you're going to have in your portfolio. It'll be either a business plan, a sales pitch, an initiative that you launched at work. There are a lot of different types of work products that people will submit to us, and we are happy to talk to you in detail about suggestions, or if you want to run some ideas by us, we're happy to let you know whether or not that meets the criteria for our work product. One of the main things is that you need to be the author of at least 80% of whatever project or product you are submitting. In lieu of that, if you are applying right out of undergrad or don't have a lot of work experience, you're welcome to submit an essay of 500 to 1,000 words describing a supply chain problem at your place of employment, or perhaps someplace where you did an internship. For our Masters of Science in Real Estate program, again, we require a GMAT or GRE, and this program also requires a minimum of 2 years of work experience. And last but not least, our Masters of Science in Executive Leadership program. As I described for the supply chain program, a professional work product can be submitted in lieu of a GMAT or GRE. And this program, as the name suggests, executive leadership, is geared towards leaders or emerging leaders. And so we do require a minimum of 10 years work experience to be considered for the MSEL program. So here I have listed our application deadlines for fall 2021. So our first deadline is coming up soon, November 1st. These deadlines can be used more like guidelines. We are not a big school that has very strict rounds, as you might see with some large universities that are getting thousands upon thousands of applications, and they'll have a very strict cutoff by which you must submit every component of your application, and then everybody will be notified by a very specific date. We work more on a rolling admissions and application review basis. So meaning that if you submit your application on November 2nd or January 13th, again, dates that are not completely aligned with our stated deadlines, that is perfectly fine. We're going to review applications as they come in, and if they are complete, we will move forward with a review. So we have a number of individuals who have already submitted applications for next fall, and we are already starting the process of review and interview. We've admitted some folks. We already have some people seated in next fall's class. So again, these deadlines that you see are guidelines because these are the most popular times of year during which our applicants apply. And people like to see a date. It's like, give me a deadline that's going to help me get organized. So use these as a tool to help you get organized. And the answer about when to submit your application is very simple. When you feel that it represents you best, when you feel like you've prepared a very strong application, that's when it's time to hit that submit button. You can also submit an application if not all components are complete. Letters of recommendation will often roll in after an application deadline. We are completely used to that. We will take all of the different pieces, the transcript, the letters of recommendation, and we will add them to your application file. So it does not need to be all set to go before you hit the submit button. There are certain things like the letters, like transcripts that are a little bit out of your control. So we certainly understand that those will sometimes take a few extra days, sometimes a couple of extra weeks to come in. GMAT or GRE, you might decide to take that a little bit later, but you want to get the rest of your application submitted. That's fine. Just write in the body of the application the date on which you're taking the exam so we can anticipate when all of the documents will be available and we can move forward with the final review. So I'm going to stop chatting now since I have been talking for quite some time and I'm sure that you have questions. So I'm going to stay in this main room and I'm happy to address any general questions that are not program specific, with the exception of supply chain. I'm happy to talk to our supply chain folks. I think there's just a few of you. And for our other programs, Haley is going to be posting the Zoom links that you can join in a few moments to talk to our individual assistant directors about your specific program of interest. So it looks like Haley has posted those Zoom links. Thank you so much. Let's see. Anybody have any general questions that you'd like to ask of me at this point? You can enter them into the chat box. That's probably the easiest, and then I'll just read your question out loud to the group. Okay. Looks like most people have questions that are very specific to your program of interest, which is great. So thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure speaking with all of you. I wasn't able to see all of you, but I know that you are all there. And why don't you go ahead and click on the Zoom link that is of your program of interest. And again, I'll stay in this room to chat with any supply chain applicants. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Kate, this is Catherine. Can you hear me?
Hi, Catherine.
Hi, there was a question, it looks like, from Mark in the chat.
Oh,
Just
okay,
to
just came
point
through on
that
my
out.
end.
I'm going to go ahead and go to my group, but just in case he comes back.
Yeah, okay,
Thank
great.
you. Awesome.
Okay, thanks so much, Catherine.
Thank you.
All right, Mark, very, very good question about letters of recommendations and the form that the recommenders are asked to fill out. So there is the form that they fill out there's two parts to it. One is a type of rating scale. So there are a number of different attributes that are listed, maturity, ability to work with others, leadership skills, and the recommender will fill out whether or not they think you are outstanding in that area or have weakness in that area or something in between. So that's the first part of the form. And then the second form asks more open-ended questions about what could the person say about you. It's almost like providing the opportunity to write a letter, but in short answer form. So hopefully that answers your question. It's very, very easy for them to fill out. I don't think it should take too much time, particularly if you prepare them in advance with a copy of your resume and why you're interested in applying to graduate school. See some other questions that have come in. Thank you. Does it show initiative if we submit application now without a completed GMAT 2 to 3 months out? Yeah, again, it is, I think the answer to that is the timing of your application submission is a little bit more to do with, do you want to just get this off of your plate? You want to get it off of your virtual desk, and you know that you feel strongly that your essays are ready to go, your other components are in, and you want to just get that, again, off of your virtual desk and submitted. Does it show initiative? Well, yes and no. We have had situations during which we have an application with a GMAT pending, and then we never get a GMAT or GRE. So certainly the full complete application shows us that, okay, this person is definitely ready to go with that complete application review. We typically are not going to be reviewing applications until all the components have arrived. So I hope that answers your question. If not, please feel free to send a follow-up question. And let's see, let me just scroll through some of these questions about scholarship, supply chain. Thank you. Different links. International students not submit WES. Okay. All right, thank you. So there was a question about the availability of scholarships depending on when you apply in the application cycle. So certainly the most amount of funding is available at the very beginning of the application cycle. We have never fully run out of funding, although we tend to distribute all of the scholarship funding that the university earmarks for our School of Business graduate programs. So again, highest scholarships tend to be given closer to the beginning. There usually is a small pool remaining towards the end of the application cycle. So it's a great question. It could be a motivating factor for you to submit earlier than later. Again, we've never run out of funding, but the highest awards are typically available earlier in the cycle. I think that somebody was looking for the links for the different sessions that with our assistant directors, and if you scroll up in the chat box, Haley posted the links up there, and maybe, I don't know if Haley's still there, if you want to repost them further down. Let's see. Great, thank you. There's another question about the WES, so the International Transcript Evaluation. We can certainly chat more about this if you are having trouble getting the evaluation. We know that during COVID, universities were closed. It was very challenging to get transcripts sent to WES or the other transcript evaluation company. So we can certainly talk about what to do in cases like that. It will be required at some point. On a case-by-case basis, there might be exceptions occasionally for submitting the WES prior to an admissions decision, but for the majority of applicants, we will be looking for that to be complete prior to us being able to give you an admissions decision. But again, there are some very unique situations still going on because of COVID, so we would definitely like to know what your individual circumstances are. And I see another question about transferring coursework. We are an AACSB accredited business school, and there are very strict regulations around transferring of credits from one graduate program to another. So if the other program was not AACSB accredited, then credits cannot be transferred over, and there is an expiration date. So coursework that started more than 6 years ago will not be able to be applied to a current graduate business degree. Even in our own programs, if you take longer for some reason, like in our professional MBA program, if you take longer than 6 years to complete the program, coursework starts to expire. We want to make sure that you're graduating with a degree that has the most relevant and recent information. So for that reason, there is an expiration on older coursework. So hopefully that helps. And let's see, great question about the IELTS test for a new score if it expires after the application submission. No, as long as the exam was taken and we get an official score report as part of your application, you don't need to retake it if the exam expires after the application deadline. Again, it just comes down to were you able to take it within the time frame, and can we get an official score report? If it once it does expire, then ETS is unable to. ETS will not send us an official score report because that score is no longer valid. So I hope that helps. Okay. Any supply chain folks that stayed in this room with any questions? Okay. Well, I'm going to stick around in case anyone wants to chat further. I'll stay here for a few more minutes, and then I'll probably pop into one of the other sessions. So thanks again, everybody. Looks like just a few folks are in this room still. I'm going to move over to our, I think our MBA session, since I know we have a lot of folks in there. So thank you again to my team. I'll see you all a little bit later. Bye.